Salcombe. So Salcombe's been around for a while. First known settlement here called Salcombe was in about 1250. But the earliest settlement that was here was a place called Batson Manor. Now Batson Creek runs round the back here to the village of Batson. And Batson Manor was listed in the Domesday Book, so in the 10th century. So that's the first known settlement here, but Salcombe itself didn't really appear until about 1250. It's always been synonymous with fishing and smuggling, but it made its money from building boats. And all of that foreshore that you can see behind you, that's all quite recent. There used to be 5 or 6 quite large boatyards all the way along this quay that used to extend back towards the hill. So 4th Street, as I say, the main high street here didn't exist. It all got filled in over the years, and they made their money by making a boat called the Fruit Schooner. And this Fruit Schooner was a beautiful sleek wooden boat, over 100 foot long, and they were made here, and they were used to go down to the Azores and to the Mediterranean to collect fruit such as oranges, lemons, melons and figs, and then they would be brought back to the UK or to Britain and offloaded at ports like Bristol, Liverpool, Hull and London. So as I say, that's how Salcombe made its money. And then on the onset of steamships and iron ships, Salcombe fell into a very steep decline because it couldn't build those kinds of boats here. It didn't have the raw materials. So all the shipbuilding and the boat building went north to Scotland and to the northeast of England. So Salcombe became quite impoverished really, only fishing survived until the railways came to Kingsbridge in Victorian times, and that brought tourists down, and they used to get a paddle steamer down the estuary to Salcombe. And then in about the 1950s, Salcombe sort of plethora of second homes, holidays, obviously hotels, and this is really what Salcombe is today. So it's evolved quite a lot, but one of the things that stayed sort of traditional is the fishing industry here, and it's still very, very large. And it's crab fishing that they do around here. Amazingly enough, Salcombe and Dartmouth still account for 60% of the total crab catch for the whole of the UK. So we have inshore boats, which are coming up here on the right and left, and we have some big trawler boats, and they go all over the place. But these boats primarily go out about 5 or 6 miles out to sea, and a little bit later on we'll go past the cages. So there's like wooden crates near Southsand where they offload their catch, and then when the crates get filled up, they get towed up to Fish Quay on your left hand side, and they're exported mainly to Spain and Portugal. So they're put on boats, on lorries and exported to those countries. So still major. The 2 main crabs is brown crab, the traditional crab, and also spider crab, and that's trying to be rebranded as Devon crab. And spider crabs look like spiders, great big long thin legs, but yeah, the Portuguese and the Spanish love them. So this that is Snape's Point. So if you are down here for the week, I do recommend you go out for a walk up there. So if you walk round to Batson and round through the village and then up to this point here, there's some benches up on top of the hill, and you've got an amazing view down the estuary out to sea. And if you go up there in the evening, if there's a sun setting, all the harbour starts to calm down. It's a really lovely spot. So there's some really nice benches up there and a lovely view.
What's it called? Batson, did you say?
Yeah, Batson. Yeah, so Batson Creek is there down there, and then the village of Batson is at the end of it. There's a green there. So just walk round through there and then come back up the other side. This is Snape's Point. Yeah. It's a lovely walk. So this is the narrowest part of the estuary. The tides race through here twice a day, or 4 times a day, in and out. And even at the lowest tide, this is 60 foot deep here. So the bottom of the valley gets scoured out and it's nice and deep. So the house on our right hand side, this is quite a new addition. That's Scobell Point. And the chap who owns that wanted to build a bigger house, so he bought the original house, wanted to knock it down and build a bigger house. The council wouldn't let him. So undeterred, what he did was he dug down, and there's a couple of floors underneath that house, dug down into the rock, so he's obviously got a big basement, so he's presumably got a swimming pool or a cinema room or a gym or something down there. So yeah, that house is a little bit bigger than first appears. got a number of ferries that are run, and I think we'll show you a couple more later. The South Sands ferry and the Boatyard ferry that goes across the estuary. But this is the Kingsbridge to Salcombe ferry, so you can get to Kingsbridge via the ferry. It only runs 2.5 hours either side of high water, so not running at the moment, but that's the ferry. So this area that we're coming into now is called the Bag, and it's very popular to moor your boat here. Obviously yachting and boating is really massive here. We have 2 regattas. There's racing usually most weekends, but we have 2 regattas, one in July and August, the town regatta and the yacht club regatta, where the town really gets busy. And as I say, we have racing here throughout the year, most weekends. They're not racing today, which is a bit of a shame because there was a lovely sight, but a bit easy for me to drive the boat because I'm going to navigate the way through them. But yeah, so this is the Bag. So you've got the high hills to the left of us, so it's a very sheltered spot from the prevailing wind. And if you wanted a boat and you wanted to moor it here in Salcombe, well, there's a bit of a waiting list. So if you live in the South Hams, it's over 7 years, and if you don't live here, it's over 10. So you've got to get your name down. Regatta week, or weeks, 2 weeks. This is a visitor's pontoon, so if you're coming in, sometimes you come up here, and during the regattas are on, the boats are strapped 3 and 4 abreast here, just to try and get everybody in, so it's a bit of a squeeze, but yeah, it gets very, very busy. Now as I say, yachting is massive here. As I say, we've got the yacht club, and one of the most famous boats we have here is called the Yawl, Y-A-W-L. It's a beautiful wooden boat. It used to be a fishing boat. They used to do line fishing off these yawls, but they've been repurposed to basically as racing yachts now. And they're a 2-person boat, beautiful wooden boats, different colours, and they're really, really sought after. Really, really good examples, go for thousands. And on the left-hand side, these are some of the yawls that they race. So this is quite a new pontoon that they brought in here. And they can drag these boats out of the water and put them on these little grey plastic pontoons, little floating platforms. And it keeps the boats nice and clean, nice and dry, nice and light, so they're nice and fast. So when they race, these are racing to win. So there's lots of different classes. As I say, they're 2-person boats, so you can have a mixed crew. Some of it is quite social, but some of these boats, the people who race in them just want to win. So yeah, this is one of these are the Salcombe yawls. Also over to our left, we have 2 old lifeboats. One's a 1930s one, offshore, and Moonbeam here is a 1950s one. And the chap who owns this takes his boat all the way up along the south coast to regattas all throughout the summer. He gets paid to do it. He's fully restored that boat. It's got a galley on board and a bedroom. And as I say, he gets paid to take his boat up to these regattas, which helps pay for the maintenance. To moor your boat, well, if you come in here as a visitor and you manage to get a mooring, it's not that expensive. It's £1 per linear metre per night. So if you've got a 10-metre boat, it's a tenner a night. It gets a bit more expensive in June to £1.50 a metre, and then in July and August it's £2 a linear metre. So it's not that expensive, but it's just trying to find one is the main thing. see the orange buoys and the mooring buoys, these are all for residents, so these are people who have got boats here, and a bit later on you'll see the yellow ones, and they are exclusively for visitors. So yeah, the orange and the reddish ones, they're the people who have got boats here all the time. Now we're coming into an area of the estuary called the Graveyard. This is where boats come to die. We've got a number of boats that have been left here and abandoned, but the most famous one we have up here is a boat called the Islander, and it was commissioned by the Jameson brothers of Jameson Irish whiskey fame in 1890 for the America's Cup. It was a beautiful boat in its day, it's 100 foot long, a massive sail, and it had a very successful racing career. It raced the Cow's Wheat and the Fastnet race, and it retired in about 1920, went through a number of different owners, and then became a houseboat in the 1970s. Anyway, it sprung a leak, so the Harbour authorities quickly dragged it up here, hoped that the owners would come and fix it, but they sort of abandoned it really. They didn't want to pay for the extra maintenance or to fix it. So they left it, and it left to rot. And so when the locals found out that it had been abandoned, they all came down here, they stripped it of all of the valuable wood and the metal, so the teak, the mahogany. Apparently some really lovely coffee tables in the local area from this boat. And here she is on the left hand side. This is the Islander, so you can see her in the mud. Quite a sad end really, but to say during her time she was a beautiful boat, but alas, her racing days are now gone. To our left is Winter's Boatyard. This is the largest boatyard left here in Salcombe, and as you can see with the channel that's been dredged, it's got marker buoys as well. You can get to the yard even at low tide. Now they don't make boats here anymore, they just repair them and maintain them. But this boatyard can take boats of up to 60 foot in length, so quite large yachts. There's still a few left in there, but they'll be in the water in the next couple of weeks. So yeah, that's Winter's Boatyard. Over to our left. Turn around in a minute, or you look to your left, that's the town of Kingsbridge, and you can see that beyond these boats there's no mooring until you get to Kingsbridge. So this is all a Coming up left on our left-hand side is Salcombe Creek, and at the end of Salcombe Creek is the village of Salcombe. There's a lovely pub up there called the Millbrook, and a lot of people go up there on their boats to the pub. They sometimes don't make it back, a combination of tides and drink. It doesn't stop them trying, but yeah, it's a lovely village and a lovely pub. And if you go around the headland here on the right-hand side, you'll see the sort of iconic view of Salcombe, really. So it's a little bit hazy today, but when the sun's out. So just here on our left is another one of the marker buoys that the yacht club uses. This is number 3, so as I say, they put the numbers up. This is one of the marker buoys, and usually there's a referee station here to make sure everybody goes around it and doesn't cheat. So the building over in the left, over to the left there, that modern building, that's not a house, that's an event space, that's called Waterhouse. It's quite recently been built. Say it does venues and exhibitions and receptions and yeah, just a bit of entertaining space. So on the left hand side is the village of East Salcombe, and as I'm sure you're aware, property prices here are quite expensive. Now East Salcombe is a little bit cheaper than Salcombe, but it's all relative. But one of the lovely features about East Salcombe is the beaches that all the way run all the way down to Mill Bay. The houses that sit above them, they own each individual beach. So all the beaches here are privately owned, where the houses sit above them. Now that doesn't mean you can't go on them. You can. They're fully open to the public, but there's certain rules and regulations as you would expect. So no barbecues, no bonfires, no parties. But yeah, so all of the houses that sit above each beach, the beach belongs to them, and most of them have got their own boat houses, so they don't need to worry about moorings. But we'll see some nice ones a bit further on as well. The house needs a little bit of work, to say the least, but it can still be yours, and they're asking for offers around £6 million for this house here on the left. So they're not giving it away. But I've got something a little bit cheaper for you in a minute, so don't despair. With a view. So the chap who owns it, that's his office, and instead of a traditional window looking out, he's got a glass floor and a glass table, so he can look straight down through the floor onto the water. Quite an unusual feature. Right there.
He doesn't own it now, does he, Woodford?
Sorry?
He doesn't own it now.
He does?
Oh, he still owns it.
Yeah. Yeah, he bought it before the fund got shut, because everyone was trying to pull their money out, in the papers and everything, and they had to shut the fund, so they couldn't withdraw the money at the time.
Yeah.
But he'd earned his commission by then. He got his money.
Oh, so
So up on the right hand side you see a white house with green shutters. Now this is Woodcock House. Now this is one of the early houses here, so this was an old hunting lodge, and the hunting grounds used to extend all the way round to North and South Sands Beach. So all the trees that you see up there, that was all part of the hunting grounds for this particular house. Now, it's a retirement home now. I think it's owned by one of the charities, Age Concern or Age UK. They've still got lovely gardens, and they open the gardens up some weekends during the year for charity. So yeah, the gardens are still very nice up there. And the thing in the foreground, that's an old folly. So that's a folly that someone's built, I think Victorian. So that's not the castle. The castle's a bit further on, but there's about as much left as that is there. So, but just to the right, these are the wooden crates that I mentioned earlier at the crabs. So the inshore crabbers come in and they moor up against these crates, and then they load them all up into these crates. So they're all live. So what they do is they cut the claws, or they cut the tendons on the claws, or they take them up so they don't fight each other in the boxes. And as I say, when they get filled up, they get towed together, strapped together, they get towed up to Fish Quay, onto lorries and exported to Spain and Portugal.
Oh. Can you go and get some? So now we can see.
Barely that one, really.
Yeah. So that's where we walk along.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's nice to see. Yeah, it's nice to see where we can walk.
That's where we're selling the plants.
See.
This is the other. This is the beach we've gone around to.
We probably pass by.
So coming up on our right is Salcombe Castle. This was built by Henry VIII in about 1545
So it's the
to
castle.
ward off the French. It got a bit of a pounding during the English Civil War about 100 years later, and time has taken its toll. So it's Fort Charles now, it's called. But yeah, the time and tide has taken, there's not much left of the old girl now. But that's Salcombe Castle or Fort Charles. So this is a South Sands ferry coming up on our left hand side. This will take you to South Sands in the distance. What you'll do is that will meet you with a tractor. The tractor comes off the beach and it will meet the boat in the water, and then you disembark onto the tractor and the tractor drives up onto the sand. So it's quite iconic. Quite a full boat. And yeah, nice little trip. So if you look ahead, that's South Sands Beach, and the Harbour Club is the big building on the right hand side. That's quite recent. And then to the left is the South Sands Hotel, and in between is the old lifeboat station. And it's the 200th anniversary of the RNLI this year, and quite apt really, because one of the worst disasters in RNLI history happened here, just ahead of us. And it happened in 1916, so they got a shout, they all rushed up to the lifeboat station. That one is now a cafe, and the shout was over to Prawle Point. So Prawle Point is about 5 miles to the east of us, so a boat had run aground, so off they went, and they had to row some of the way, because it was a rowing boat at the time. They got there, everyone had got off, thankfully, so the boat was on the rocks, but everyone managed to get off. So they headed back, and on the way back in, it got hit by a rogue wave, and the boat got flipped over stern over bow, and of the 15 crew members, 13 of them perished. Terrible disaster, and there's a couple of memorials, I think there's more than a couple actually in the town to commemorate it. And amazingly enough, the 2 survivors, one of them, Eddie Bastin, became the coxswain of the new lifeboat, and he was the coxswain till 1951. Amazing service, survived that disaster, but went back out to sea on the new lifeboat. And as is today, the coxswain is the only paid member of the crew. Everybody else is volunteers. So but as we turn up a bit later on, I'll show you where the disaster happened. So on the right hand side is North Sands.
That's the beach.
So if you want to go there when the tide's in, don't go to South Sands, because the beach gets completely covered by the tide. So and then the Winking Prawn is the pub with the flagpole, so that's the Winking Prawn. Now the disaster was caused by, we've got a sandbar that runs across the entrance to the harbour, and it's a bit of a hazardous shipping, particularly at low tide. There's a breaking wave that comes across it. You can just see it starting to form there now. Now, on the right hand side is a lovely house, a pink house. It's called the Hall. It's probably the biggest house here in Salcombe, and it was made famous by Lord Tennyson. So Lord Tennyson, the poet, stayed there, and he wrote his famous poem, Crossing the Bar. Now, Crossing the Bar, if you don't know, is a poem about crossing between life and death, and he wrote this poem looking out to sea, looking over the sandbar across this harbour. And he stayed at the Malt, and it was one of probably Salcombe's first holiday homes, and it still is a holiday home today. It's got 14 bedrooms and 14 bathrooms. It's a beautiful property, as you can see. You can't really see it from the road. You can only really see it from the sea. And I did check the website to find out how much it would cost, and they had a week available in August, and it was £31,500 for the week, so not the cheapest place to stay. This is one of the big crabbers, so he's coming in with his catch.
Do you buy clams and crabs?
So yeah, if you look on the beach there, you see the blue and the blue and yellow tractor on the beach, that comes out and meets the ferry. So as we turn around here, if you look to your left hand side, you see a white house up on the cliff. That's called Harbour, and the disaster happened just below there. And up there is Overbeck, so it's a National Trust garden, and the house isn't open, but the gardens are. They're very, very nice, got some beautiful tropical plants up there. Yeah, so if you're here for a while and you want to go for an afternoon, go up to Overbeck. So the green buoy onto our right hand side, this is the marker buoy for the Wolf Rock. So there's a couple of rocks here on the right hand side, one called the Black Stone, that's fully visible, but the Wolf Rock is always underwater even at low tide, so it's not a place you want to be on a rough night.
We stay up there. Towards the waterline, you'll see a dark structured way, and they used to drag some of the landing craft up onto the beach to fix them and to repair them. And as I say, at low tide you can still see the old slipway. So I don't know who owns this house, but whoever does is very lucky. Just up there on the right hand side, and the house just below it, with the fortunately it's coming in scaffolding and plastic sheeting at the moment. This is quite an unusual house, an interesting house. The chap who used to own that, he doesn't anymore, he sold it recently. Now he bought this house on the proceeds of a very famous song that he wrote. And he wrote the song for Tina Turner, and the song was What's Love Got to Do With It? And he wrote that song, and he bought that property on the royalties of that one song. So, as I say, if you're a songwriter, keep going, you might hit the jackpot and afford to buy a house on his Bournemouth. But yeah, it's a shame you can't see it at the moment, but yeah, having quite a bit of work done. Now if you look over to our left hand side, so where the starter hut is, now the headquarters of the yacht club is the red tile building above it. Now that's called Cliff House, and that was built by a chap called Andrew McElrath, and he built it for his daughter. He wanted to tempt her down from London, so he built her this house, and she came down, she took one look at it and said, no, I don't like that, Dad. So he gifted it to the town. So one proviso was that it had to have a library. So the town library is in the building on the right hand side, but it's also the headquarters now of the yacht club. So and Cliff Gardens is the gardens in front of it. So you see the memorial, and then that's a lovely spot. So if you want to watch the world go by, some benches down on the lower garden there. She wrote one at a couple at Fur Island in the hotel, and she wrote a novel called Peril at End House. Now that was made into a film. David Suchet was Hercule Poirot in the film, and all of it was shot here in Salcombe. Now End House was the malt that we saw earlier, the pink house which Lord Tennyson stayed at, and this building here on the left was the Old Marine Hotel. It's now private apartments, but in the film it was the hotel, and it was a hotel at the time. And the Fortescue Inn pub, that was a tea room. So yeah, that film was shot entirely here in Salcombe. So yeah, this is a visitor, so he's coming to that visitor's buoy there, that yellow marker buoy. Well, I hope you have a lovely stay down